All right, guys, we're live. Everybody ready?
Yeah, baby.
I got a DM just a second ago. A guy was asking me, a pretty prominent high school football player in the area was asking me, can he make his college announcement on Talking Preps? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. And then I
Wow.
started thinking about it. I say, if I was a high school kid, I want my college announcement on Charlotte Observer, News and Observer, and all their social media spots as well. Alex, why are you shaking your head? No.
Absolutely not.
Why not?
Absolutely not. This is not the forum to do that. And this would create a situation unless we dedicate a show to that at an appropriately timed point after signing day by which we can make it a area kind of thing, then absolutely not.
Alex, it's my show, and I say yes. If you want to commit on Talking Prep, Charlotte, come on commit. Here we go. Alex is my guy. Now, y'all don't know me and Alex go back years and years. Seriously, if you guys want to commit on Talking Preps, please call me up. We'll get you on, let you have your moment. All right, we're going to change the show around a little bit today because of all the news that came out of Olympic. And we're going to, instead of having a rundown, we're going to go right into the great debate. Here we go. Okay, so we were talking about this before we came on the air, and Dale, I know this is really close to you because you're a former Olympic parent, Booster Club member. You're very involved with the school and have been for years and years. As everybody knows, Olympic had a player play with an ankle bracelet on who's under current criminal investigation. He was allowed to play. There's no state rule blocking that right now. CMS is talking about creating a rule to prevent that. But then in recent days, there have been protests at Olympic, and several Olympic high school athletes have been suspended. And I talked to a parent today, Dale, that was very upset, who didn't understand why the school would allow a player who's criminally charged to play, but then suspend the people who protest that player playing. So I'm going to let you give your thoughts on this.
Okay, I'm going to try not to get too long. I'll start out by saying that, yes, the state should address this type situation. They need to review how they handle this. I personally don't believe a player under investigation should be playing. It is near and dear to me. 4 kids, 10 years at Olympic, rebuilt the Booster Club from a negative, nobody would sell to us in the city, 5 of us, including the athletic director. A lot of sweat, a lot of blood into that school back in those times. And to hear about this situation, and while I don't believe that a child that has, I believe in innocent until proven guilty, but that's going to jail and death sentences and all that kind of stuff. We're talking about athletics. And we'll separate the part away from education-based athletics. I don't think any person in such a situation should be playing. What really bothered me even more was that young ladies protesting the situation were suspended. So we had a kid wearing an ankle bracelet playing football on a Friday night. And we had kids, girls, I guess, tonight that did not get to play because they protested this situation that they had every right to protest. And that has got to not be a safe feeling situation for any young lady in a high school to have that kind of thing happen where you have a suspected rape, and then the rapist is allowed, or the suspected rapist, I don't want to accuse, is allowed to not only roam the halls, but to play and participate in a athletic event.
Yeah. Chelsea, you're a female high school student. You go to school in Wake County. You heard about this today. I'm just curious, from a student's perspective, a female student's perspective, how does this make you feel?
I think starting from the female, high school student perspective, I think if a case like that were to ever happen, nearby me, I stand with the right to protest. And I think, with that freedom to protest, and I don't know if they looked peacefully or not, but nonetheless, they were a protest. I think there should be no punishment for that. And I think it's really degrading that, these young women who went out there and protested for what they believe in, and then you have an athlete out there with a sexual assault accusation, being able to play on the field while these women can't. And I also think, like Dale said, nonetheless, I do not think he should be playing. He has criminal allegations, and I think that law should be reviewed. While there are kids, who formerly maybe could not have been playing games because of their grades or, whatnot in the classroom. But again, there's a kid with a criminal accusation who can play. So I think, whatever that law is, it should be reviewed. And I think that it was really unfair to those women to be blocked from their freedom to protest.
Absolutely. Alex Bass.
Very, very tough situation all the way around. I'll begin by saying that as a school and athletics administrator, do I believe that a student athlete with a pending felony charge should be competing in education-based athletics? Absolutely not. That being said, I will also acknowledge what everyone has acknowledged so far. We've got several layers here. Number one, there is not a state education-based athletics governing policy precluding a student who has been charged with a felony from playing. Once again, that has nothing to do with the fact that I don't think a student in the circumstance should be playing, but there is no policy precluding that. Number two, it is within the jurisdiction of each local education agency or LEA to craft and implement a more stringent policy in such situations. Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools at this point in time has not done that. Cumberland County Schools had a similar situation a number of years ago, within the last 5-6 years, of a student athlete who had a pending felony charge and played, and that was against school system policy. So differences right there. Once again, has nothing to do with how I feel personally, but the fact that one LEA had a policy on the books and Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools in this case right now does not. The next layer has to do with the fact that the alleged assault happened off campus. Again, doesn't mitigate the severity of it, doesn't make it right. But that mitigates the school and school systems' ability to suspend as a precursor to further disciplinary action. So you got several layers going here in terms of how the situation is handled. In an increasingly litigious society, right or wrong aside, personal feelings aside, that would be a formidable challenge for Olympic High School and Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools to manage in litigation at this point, given what's on CMS policy right now. And very quickly, the situation with the volleyball players and protesting, I would not be inclined as an administrator in this situation to impose a penalty for freedom of freedom of assembly. I would not be inclined to do that. I would like to know, though, what discussions were had behind the scenes if these students approached school administrators before this protest. And once again, that doesn't mitigate severity of it. I would like to know the extent to which they pursued that avenue of open communication directly with administrators before these protests. That's just something I'd like to know. But once again, I would not be inclined to impose a punishment for assembling under these circumstances.
All right, Gary, your thoughts?
Like Alex says, there's several layers to this. And I've been witness to school protests before as a teacher in Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools once at Independence, where we had a walkout over students protesting, a student being disqualified in a student council election because he talked about Jesus, and the students walked out of class because he got disqualified. The entire school, and this is when Independence had about 2,800 students. No one was suspended. Students stayed out of class for probably about 45 minutes. The principal threatened to suspend students who didn't return to class. Eventually, they all did. And then a few years later, when I was at Providence, we had another walkout that took place across the high schools over the loss of spring break, because I think that was the year that Hugo hit, and we missed so many weeks of school before power was restored that they had to use spring break to make up those missed days. And many of the students had already made plans for spring break, especially seniors, and they walked out. I don't know of anybody getting suspended. The problem is we don't know what the administration told the kids once they started their protest. There's no principal with any kind of common sense that's going to suspend 400 or 500 students. You just can't do it. You just let the students blow it off. They'll eventually get tired. And then once you get it down to a reasonable number, 10, 15 kids, then you can use punishment to those who continue to disrupt the school day. That's the key issue, is where do your First Amendment rights end? The Supreme Court says they don't end at the school door. You know, you still have freedom of speech when you walk in a schoolhouse. You still have freedom of assembly, freedom to protest. The catch is, does it disrupt the school day, and does it prevent other kids from learning? If the answer to those questions is yes, then you no longer have that right. And so it's layers to that as far as the kid playing with charges on him. Where do you draw the line? Is it felonies? Is it misdemeanors? Is it events that take place only on campus, or is it off campus as well? It's kind of hard to do when you're teaching kids you're innocent until proven guilty, but the punishment is you lose all your rights of participation until you're proven you're innocent. That's a reversal of what we teach in America, that you got to prove that you're innocent, or else we're going to assume you're guilty. And it's supposed to be the other way around. So this is difficult on all layers or all levels. I would hate to have to be the principal. I think that the punishment for the volleyball players may have been a little bit too severe, but we don't know if they were told to go back to class and they refused to cooperate once they were told to do so, because then that becomes insubordination, which becomes something that you can be punished for.
Sure. Well, this is definitely going to be something that we'll follow in the coming weeks.
Let me ask one question, Langston.
Yes. Go ahead.
What would happen if this was a teacher? In CMS, would the teacher be allowed to teach?
They would not be. That teacher wouldn't be on campus.
Exactly. Why is this any different? So whatever rules apply to a teacher legally should apply to students as well.
The teacher probably would be suspended with pay.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Pending the investigation. Yes.
So
we've seen CMS do similar things like that in the past.
yes,
all right.
we have.
So we can talk about this all night. We're going to go ahead and move on. We got a big show tonight. Monday Night Football preference. Gary, do you like the regular announcers or do you like the Manning brothers?
Man, I watched the Manning brothers for 2 weeks. That is so funny. And I like it because it's the football coach in me. I understand what they're talking about. They're talking to the serious football fanatic. They're talking the way guys talk, probably without the profanity, and it's hilarious. I don't want to watch the regular version of Monday Night Football if the Mannings are doing it. They are absolutely terrific at Monday Night Football.
Well, I would agree with you. I like the Mannings, and Peyton is just so. I mean, he can like barely talk to everybody because he's like so glued to the game.
And the jokes about his head, about how big his head is, they are hilarious.
It's funny. Dale, your thoughts here?
I have to agree. If I can't have my Monday Night Football from the the 70s and 80s, this is just as funny as Dandy Don, and more entertaining from a football intellect view as well, because I think we get better insight.
Look at here. Gary, he didn't want you to do the game show, Gary. He just had to show up.
He want to come. He want to show them guns off.
He got the little guns out too.
Got to show them guns off.
I was worried about my streak if Gary was going on it. So
all the ink and all the guns and everything showing. All right, Chelsea, I'm losing my place. Chelsea, does the eastern part of the state have an advantage? Alex is laughing. When they get to the state championships and all the championship games in Raleigh and Chapel Hill?
I don't know. I think maybe a team should. I think if you're good, you can play in any arena, any location. But state title, how
you sleep in your own bed versus having to drive 3 hours up to play the game. Also, the press conference is in Chapel Hill, so the head coach of the Western team has to go to the press conference, or Raleigh has to go to the press conference, come back, maybe miss practice on the day of the state championship games. And then you have 9-1 fan advantage for the Eastern team. Just curious, you're a student of it.
I think that there would be an advantage, but I don't think it's an advantage that should be, overly looked at in the state of changing the location or anything. I think the Triangle is a great place. I'm in the Triangle, and I love watching the games here. But I think while there is an advantage, it's nothing that is extreme.
All right, Alex, here we go.
I'm going to go ahead and help out the cause here. Everybody, let's just all acknowledge what wonderful facilities there are in Charlotte. We could have a tremendous Western Regional basketball tournament at the Mine Shaft at UNC Charlotte, at Davidson, at Queens. I mean, we could really have a great Western Regional. So let's everyone give Charlotte an opportunity to host a great
I am so
event.
shocked by your answer right now.
Because, I mean, this whole question, and Chelsea, you answered the question beautifully. I mean, let's just acknowledge.
Hold on. Sam is a football coach. Sam, what advantages would it be for you if you could be in Raleigh and play a game in NC State versus being in Charlotte and have to go to Raleigh to play that game?
it's huge. It's the same advantage a home team has. To be honest with you, it's a big advantage. And then the day, or I think it's on a Wednesday, I had to go do that press conference thing where you're out there all day. You're driving. It takes two and a half hours roughly to get there, 2.5 hours to get back, trying to get practice done. That's why I rocked the white suit the last time I was there, just to make a statement. But it's a brutal thing, it really is. I know that all the colleges are right there around the Raleigh area, but we should definitely do other things. We should be able to bounce around. Like we can go to the east side, we can go to the Raleigh side, we can come to Charlotte. Like Alex is saying, that we have capabilities at UNCC. We have, the great Carolina Panthers are helping us out with Memorial Stadium now and stuff. So that's the best state championship game there is at that area.
Absolutely. All right, Sam. It's time since you showed up and let Gary off the hook. It's time for you to get nervous. I got my man Michael Stanley here.
That was my strategy because I knew that those questions would be easier for Gary. I came in and that was smart on my part, I thought.
Oh, that's what it was. Well, Michael, man, welcome to the show. You guys had a tough loss 2 weeks ago. And then you come back last week and have the biggest win in several years. How did you guys not kind of have a Huff hangover and take out Malik Creek?
Well, so it was a whole process after, the result 2 weeks ago after that heavy loss. We took it into account that we can't lose anymore because we got to get to that third season. We got to get to the playoffs. We was like, we can't stay in this hangover, can't kneel down. And Malik Creek, you're on the list. It just we had to do it, needed to get done.
Is West Charlotte on the list?
I mean, if you want to be on the list, you can be.
I'm asking you there, Swole. Come on now. You gonna step up to the plate? We on the list or not?
This is good TV right here.
I mean, yeah, you're on the list. You can be on the list.
Okay, that's fine. All right, just wanted to know.
When is that game, Sam? When is the
last game of the season, senior night?
Okay, last game of the season. Michael, my dad, you come back on and take Sam on again. Last game of the season. All right, so Michael, I hope you know how this goes. We're gonna put some questions up on the screen. You got to go first and answer the first question, and your only job is to beat Sam because he wasn't supposed to be on tonight, and for some reason he popped up on the screen all of a sudden. So when we get back, you're gonna take him out. Here we go,
brother. I'm not MJ, just Coach Griner, but I'm the GOAT of the game show.
And you know what would be really cool? You like that, Mikey? I see you like that. You got the big smile. Look, if he's got the guns out. So if you take him out tonight, I'm gonna be extra happy.
If this is intimidating, I will put him away. Okay.
No, not very. My mother.
Hey, So if me and you went on a board drill, you like your chances?
Oh, I love my chances.
Oh my gosh, man. What's your size?
All right, Dale, here we go.
Okay.
Sorry.
When was the last time the Charlotte Hornets won a playoff series? A, 2010, B, 2016, C, 2002, D, 1998.
All right, Michael, you're first.
I'm going to guess A, 2010.
2010. Samuel.
Yeah, I'm going to say D, 1998.
D, 1998. The answer is 2002. They beat the Orlando Magic in the first.
I was going to go 2. I was going to either C or D. Shoot.
Yeah, I'll expect you to pick A because you always think I make all the answers.
It's been a long run.
No, I knew we hadn't won a playoff series in a long time because my dad
it's been a long time. It's been a really long time. All right, Chelsea, let me get this one on the screen.
This is the pop culture question that I have no clue about.
What'd
I say?
Here we go, Chelsea. It's Sam's first.
Which artist sings with Lil Nas X on the chart-topping hit Industry Baby? A, Lil Wayne, B, Lil Baby, C, Jack Harlow, or D, Billy Ray Cyrus?
Samuel.
Wow.
I'm going to bring Chris with that Jeopardy music.
I know. Let me think. I'm gonna go D, Billy Ray Cyrus.
D, Billy Ray Cyrus. What you got, Michael?
I got C, Jack Harlow.
You got C, Jack Harlow. I think that's right.
Ooh.
That was a good guess though, Sam, because Billy Ray Cyrus did sing a version of Old Town Road with Lil Nas X. But
I knew it was Lil Baby or Lil Wayne.
Say again?
I knew I've chose the wrong one. I can narrow it down to the final 2, but I messed up both times now.
You are now in the hole and struggling.
It's okay.
Michael, you're first in this question. Dale's on the read. Here we go.
Oh boy, this bothered a lot of people, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
Monday, Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram went down. How many people use Facebook? A, 3 billion, B, 5 billion, C, 1 billion, D, 900 million.
Michael.
I'm going to guess B, 5 billion.
B, 5 billion. Samuel.
I'm going to go A, 3 billion.
Oh, Michael, it's tied now. It's 3 billion to use Facebook. I think if I didn't know the answer, I would have guessed.
Facebook always school question. If you would have went MySpace, we would have got that one right too. Because
MySpace.
Remember MySpace, Coach?
I do remember MySpace.
Sam probably has a MySpace.
He probably does.
There you go. There you go, Dale.
Still probably active, right?
Let's go, Chelsea.
All right. Which Mecklenburg County football team has never won an NCHSAA state championship? A. Garinger, B. Myers Park, C. East Mecklenburg, or D. South Mecklenburg?
Samuel.
I'm gonna go B. Myers Park.
B. Myers Park. What you got, Michael?
I'm gonna guess A. Garinger.
Garinger won. Myers Park did not. So Samuel is up 2-1.
1959.
I'm still young. I haven't.
1959. Before I
Man, that's disrespect to Garinger. Man, we had Steve Shaughnessy, Barry Shuford, Coach Garinger. Them boys were like legendary back
I was
then.
19. I was born in 2004.
He said 1950.
I love it.
The disrespect.
I love it.
Chelsea,
Okay, Michael. You're down 2-1. It's the last question, so you can tie Sam and not let him steal the win.
Don't even try me like that.
Here we go.
Okay, I'm a WWF old time. So anyway, which WWE wrestler stars in the latest DC movie, The Suicide Squad? A. The Rock, B. Dave Bautista, C. John
Dave
I don't know how to pronounce his name. Batista. Yeah, okay. And D. CM Punk.
Michael, what you got?
I got C. John Cena.
It's C. He's correct. It's C. John Cena.
Oh, Sam gets the W somehow.
Mm-hmm.
I'm upset, but he got me.
I was gonna go see if he didn't or not.
He got me with the. Whenever Sam gets in front, you have no chance. Michael.
Yeah, figure.
But
I know how to play defense. As
look,
Alex says, you got to know how to play defense. I know how to play some daggone defense.
He'll guess a wrong answer just to.
Michael, keep Sam on the list. And we're gonna check back in with you later on in the year, right?
Remember, I'm on the list.
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
you're on the list. You're on the list. Well, Michael, man, thanks for coming on, man. Best of luck to you guys, all right?
Thank you.
All right.
Congrats on that big win Friday night.
Yes, that was a huge win.
Big win for the school.
Now, you guys might notice that we're missing one of our compatriots today. Mr. Chris Hughes is not in the building. There's Grice and there's Gary and there's Alex. So we're missing Mr. Chris Hughes, but through the magic of TV, here's Chris.
Hello, everybody. Chris Hughes, the guru of high school football here. Guru's Game Ball. 60 seconds of Chris. We're going to give away a few game balls from some incredible performers, some players, a few coaches from the efforts here in North Carolina last week. Who can believe that week 7's in the books? Looking forward to week 8 this week. Man, where has this season gone? But anyway, guys, we're going to give away a few Guru's Game Balls. So let's go ahead and hit it. 3, 2, 1, boom. Let's go. Deshaun McCullough, the quarterback at Smithfield Selma. Selma got themselves back up to 500. Had a few close losses earlier in the year. Smithfield has done a great job, though. Coach Duron Donald coming up from East Smith. Quarterback Deshaun McCullough, though, had a very high percentage game, was very efficient in leading that offense to a 42-14 victory. I don't want to necessarily call it an upset, but it is what it is. It was kind of an upset victory over Wilson Fight. Backup quarterback, when we talk about backups, but backup quarterback Michael Irons led a game-winning drive in a huge epic battle in Western North Carolina, leading Pisgah to come back to beat Franklin 20-16. Wow. Backup quarterback. Good job, Michael. Crest running back Maury Adams and South Point running back Tyson Riley. These guys were just throwing haymakers in their game Friday night. Obviously, Crest came back in the waning minutes to win 27-26. And also, going to give a game ball to the coach and staff at Crest. Kane put forth a masterful effort, set up some plays. They did a great job in trying to put forth this game-winning drive. I thought that Coach Nick Edmonds and his staff, the entire staff, you're all getting the ball, did a great job in helping South Point to win that game. And then finally, Elijah Bonner, receiver and defensive back at North Pitt High School, caught a 50-yard bomb on the second play of the game for a touchdown, came back later and had a crucial pick six or no, he took it down to the goal line, not quite in the end zone for that. And for that, Elijah Bonner, you're going to get a game ball. North Pitt 5-1. Coach, there's the bell. Coach Greg Watford, the Panthers 5-1. Anyway, that's going to do it for Guru's Game Balls, man. We'll catch y'all next week.
One of the fastest segments we have here on Talking Preps. It's good to have Chris out here. All right, so now it is time for Chelsea's World. Chelsea, this is always one of my favorite segments. Get to see another great segment from you. Who are you talking to today?
So this past week, I interviewed senior defensive back from Gibbons High School, Will Mason. It was his brother, Trey Mason, who I believe plays at Butler. So he sent me all his information, and being in the Cap 7 or Cap 6 conference now, I guess, I've been able to watch Gibbons dominate for a while against our teams. So, with this being Will's senior year, I thought it'd be really interesting to talk to him about things like the state championship, some of his senior perspectives, and just their goals this season.
Oh, I agree. And I mean, that's exciting. And now, how appropriate, of course, with their game coming up here at Cleveland Road. But I'm excited to get into it, Dale. I don't know about you, but I'm ready to get to it. So
yes, sir.
This week, I'm interviewing senior defensive back Will Mason from Cardinal Gibbons High School. So, Will, I want to start off by discussing last Friday's game where you guys blew out Inlow High School at 37-0. Kind of discuss what went well in that game and y'all's mindset during it.
Yeah, we wanted to get out to a hot start, and I think that's what we did. Offense really set up the tempo with the score on the first drive, and defense got multiple 3-and-outs. I think they had like 9 yards of total offense in the first half. So I think that's setting a goal of knowing what we want to accomplish. Obviously, to just to set the tone early and then carry things going on late is especially what helped us play well in that game, and also just knowing that we really want to get everybody out there on the field that day. Came into the game with knowing that we wanted to just get all the teammates on the field and just knowing that it'd be a fun time watching our brothers go out there and just have fun.
For sure. And next week, you guys have a conference game against Leesville Road High School. What do you look forward to that game and how will you guys attack it?
Well, first things first, I mean, that Leesville's always been our rival. I mean, they've been our rival since we've gotten the Cap 6 now, and it's just looking forward to the atmosphere of that game. It's going to be a wide out game. Stands are going to be filled. Everyone's going to be there. It's going to be a massive, massive game. It's homecoming family football, and it's just one of those games. When you think about high school football, it really embodies what it means to just to fulfill the high school football experience. And I think that from a defensive perspective, at least, we need to come out and making sure that we stop their run. We know that the run game is a big thing for them, so we want to make sure that we're doing our best to be proactive and just stopping whatever they have throwing at us, and also just making sure that we're limiting the big plays in the offensive perspective, from making sure that they're not, throwing the ball deep downfield, any holes in our coverages, just playing sound, good football.
For sure. I look forward to seeing the result of that game. And I know earlier in the season, Gibbons had a really strong out of conference, schedule, playing teams like JC Chambers and Myers Park. Kind of discuss the benefits of playing those teams that really suppose a challenge.
Yeah, well, when we've over the past couple of years, obviously have really solidified ourselves as a playoff team, and that's really what we've kind of learned, that the regular season, when you're looking to be a powerhouse playoff team, you have to prepare yourself for the playoffs, and that's what we really looked at from an out of conference schedule perspective, making sure that we play these great teams, these playoff level teams in our out of conference schedule, so that when we get to the playoffs, we have all the experience. And when you get in a tight game, there's no panic, no worry. We just get to go out there comfortable in our situation. We just play football like we usually do. I think that having an out of conference schedule like the one that we played is just going to be so beneficial for us down the road, because we're going to get in these situations, and I think we can be able to dominate in these tougher situations, rather than worry about freezing up or being scared.
I like that. And Will, I want to go into your recruiting a bit. Just kind of talk about your recruiting process. I know you recently got an offer from Butler, and for sure in a school, what's something you look forward in?
Yeah, the recruiting process it's been a long one. It's been a tough one, especially because of COVID. But I just think when I look for a school, I think look for one that's competitive, especially at the Division I level. And I also look for someone that's going to, give me a chance to just learn and grow, not just as an athlete, but as a person, especially a school that has high academic rigor and just a university where I can look back and say, in the next 40 years, this is really going to benefit me. Something, type of university where I say, hey, I got my degree from this place. People be like, okay, yeah, I know that place. That's a great college, a great place to be. And I just can be proud of what my alma mater will be in 20 years from now.
All great things. And again, this being your senior year, what are some of your goals individually or as a team that you want to close out?
Well, I think first things first is definitely state championship. Going there 2 times, it has to be, the goal. You want to cap it off. You want to leave the game on your own terms from the high school level. No other level like the high school level. And also, I really hope to make sure that I'm fully taking advantage of the time I get with my teammates on the field. I think that's got to be the biggest goal, to just look back and create memories that I'm really fond of, really proud of, because, Cap 7 awards, all state, those things are great, but that's not what you're going to carry with you when you leave the game. What you're going to carry with you is just those memories, those fun times that you make with your teammates, the different moments when your coach is happy, when you've had a great practice, when you play a great game. Those are the times that you're really going to remember. And that's what I just look for. That's really my biggest goal, is just making sure to build on and creating positive, good memories.
I like that. And also going deeper into the state championship, you guys have reached that opportunity for the past 2 years. And I know it's, like you mentioned, still a goal. How will you guys strive for that?
Well, I think the first things first is just take things one step at a time. Obviously, this week we have Leesville, and the biggest key for us, and setting up a good opportunity for us to win a state championship, is securing a Cap 6 conference championship. So that'll be the first thing. Then the next thing is, when we get that playoff schedule, making sure that we're taking each game seriously. Obviously, at this point with the conference play, each game has playoff implications. And when you get into the playoffs, it's all about just like I said earlier, taking that out of conference tough schedule experience and applying it to every game that we play, because we know every game is going to have seniors on the field that don't want to make it their last, and everyone's going to play and ball out their best. So we just have to be the best version of ourselves every single time we walk out on that football field.
I like that. And Will, finally, to close out, to those who don't know you as an athlete or even as a person, how would you describe yourself?
That's a good question. I'd probably say someone who just applies themselves to doing what they love to do, whether it's football field or in the classroom, or just getting to know people and setting a good environment up for around where I am. And also just someone who gives effort. I'd say, when you do something, you got to give full effort. And I think that's what I am, a person who's effortful and intentful with my actions.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for hopping on. I look forward to seeing how that game against Leesville plays out, and best of luck this season. Thank you.
Thank you.
See ya.
Wow, that was a great in-depth interview, Dale. What are your thoughts there? That seemed to be pretty good.
Unfortunately, I could not hear it.
You're good,
It played. It wasn't just the sound; it just kept freezing. So I'm going to look forward to seeing that tomorrow when you release it.
Oh, you definitely have to check it out. Chelsea, I think that was one, sometimes I feel like you have to kind of really pull these athletes out and kind of show themselves and who they are. This one, it didn't seem to be the case. Could you talk about just how you felt during the interview and maybe some of the things that we didn't see as viewers?
No, kind of for the interviews, I reassure that these interviews are really about the athlete. So, take that opportunity to really go into depth. And he took that really well, Absolutely. He just went into depth about his goals, his senior year, things about the state championship. And I think he was really well spoken and presented himself well.
Definitely. I thought you asked some very great questions that allowed him to continue to kind of talk about who he is and really made for an impressive interview. Chelsea, you continue to raise the bar again every week with these interviews. And I think we're just blessed to have you on here. So, if any other athletes want such a great interview as that, can you please, let everyone know how to reach you and potentially get on like Will did?
Of course. My Twitter is @ChelseaSipple. My DMs are open to anyone. If any coach, athlete, parent or family or administration has somebody that they want to recommend or want to be featured on themselves, please send over their name or yourself. I'd love to schedule a Zoom and get you featured.
Definitely, 100%. Chelsea, thank you so much again for another great segment. We look forward to getting to this segment next week.
I'll catch y'all next week.
All right. So next, let's move forward. I think it's time for Mr. Football. All right, I have to do my best guru impression here, but let's go through the Mr. Football watch list. Pretty much unchanged. We had a number of bye weeks experienced by some of our top athletes here. We're still at the top with Amarian Hampton, of course, the running back out of Cleveland County, the North Carolina commit. Number 2 is still the reigning Mr. Football, Dalen Smothers out of Chambers High School here in Charlotte. Jalen Walker, of course, a linebacker, Georgia commit from Salisbury there, still at 3. Tad Hudson again at 4 there. Aaron Herring, from New Bern. I think our big movers here, Christian Hamilton has moved up into the top 8 after a big performance this past week against South Iredale. He's cracked that top there. Lucas Lindhoff was a guy that moved down. I think primarily faced some stiff competition against Cardinal Gibbons, as I think they narrowly pulled that victory out. I think has suffered a number of injuries to his receiving core and maybe supporting cast there. That may be a reason for some of the bumps down. Byron Brown's another one. Again, a guy that was a finalist last year. He's starting to kind of get into his rhythm this past week. Had over 350 yards of total offense, and I think it was 3 or 4 touchdowns. So a big performance by him. And as we always talk about, as we get into conference, we're starting to see some of these guys really show in the cream, really rise to the crop. But those are the highlights. Of course, Marquise McCombs, the guy that burst on the scene a few weeks ago, concludes our top 16. Alex, could you talk about some of the guys here that kind of catch your eye?
Absolutely. I had the privilege of watching Mason Fortune last week. I was at the Millbrook Heritage game. Great game. Millbrook led by 2 points going into the fourth quarter. Heritage took over game in the quarter. A lot of people didn't realize Mason Fortune threw his first, or it wasn't his fault. Our defense made a great play. His first interception of the year last week. He has 19 touchdowns to 1 interception, and the interception was a great play. That's a great ratio any way you look at it. 19 to 1? My goodness. And Wesley Grimes, that wide receiver at Millbrook, who's a Wake Forest commit, just showed absolute grit last week, battling through a calf injury, but willing himself, even in the second half, to do his special team holder duties. So just aside there on Fortune right there. But in terms of the rest of the list right here, we're settling into a groove now in terms of Amarian Hampton is being Amarian Hampton every week. Dalen Smothers is being Dalen Smothers. I think we're getting to a point now where those top, I think we're going to see this level off now, because all these guys, particularly in those top 5, 6, they're doing what we expect them to do. And that's not a commentary on anyone else further down the list. It's a testament to how exceptional Hampton, Smothers, Walker, Hudson, who took himself to another level with the win over Chambers, how exceptional they have been. So I like this list. I like where it stands now. We're settling into a groove. And I think that we're looking at a situation where nobody is going to lose Mr. Football. Somebody is going to win it.
No doubt.
Yeah, I think the way the list has been rounded out, especially those top 2, for people to move up, you're really going to have to ball out. Those top guys are really playing well. So to be able to pass, especially number 1 and number 2, you're going to have to ask. And this is the time of year, isn't it, that your tougher games are coming up, and when you really should, if you're a ball player, you should be balling right now.
So you're telling me, Alex, that Wesley Grimes, he got like an ankle injury or something like that in the game, wide receiver, and he still went out there for his holding duties?
Yes, it was a calf. It looked like a calf injury. I was down on the sideline.
Okay.
Looked like a calf injury. He was going through a pretty extensive stretching regimen at halftime. He wasn't out with the guys in the final 3 minutes before the second half resumed. He was leaning up against the goalpost doing some of his own stretching. I mean, that's how tight it was. He was a great possession receiver in the first half, but really was limited in that second half. And you saw him pacing up and down the sideline, trying to get in some kind of a rhythm, but just couldn't get to the point where he could run routes effectively. But no, he still willed himself to come out and do his special team holder duties. It was very, very impressive and inspiring.
Oh, that's big time, because I met his family at the Wake Forest game Saturday, and they were giving me crap about we don't love the East enough. And I was like, let me see this kid's badge. I said, is he even anybody this way? And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I know your name. All right. You talking about a stand-up family, raised right. It was a pleasure meeting them Saturday, and it's cool to see that other people watch the show from all over the place. They're like, hey, aren't you on the Talking Preps thing? So it's kind of good that they're watching it. We're trying to highlight kids from all over. And, if you ball, you get the call from Grice. So we're all good.
Well, I thought Boss Grice told you no.
Yeah, I know. We don't listen to him. We don't.
No, but of course, like I said, I think, Grimes has been a contender on and off this list the entire year. Someone that we've looked at. So glad to hear that he's, hopefully will recover soon from that injury, and he's continuing to do great things. But again, that list will be trimmed soon. And, just as a reminder, we will have the 3 finalists on a Talking Prep show in the future. I think maybe sometime in the playoffs. And where we will announce the Mr. Football 2021 Mr. Football winner live on air on Talking Prep. So be ready for that. The chop is coming soon. So if you've been biding your time for a great performance, now's the time to put in that work. But now we'll actually go and introduce some new guys who may be on some Mr. Football watch list in the future. Let's go to Fresh Faces.
All right, man. You know what that music means. Great intro into another crop of fresh faces, Grice. How are we going today?
Oh, man, doing great. I'm always excited to see the next group of kids that are up next and are doing things right now in the state. And again, we cover them from Dare to Cherokee. So wherever you are in this state, if you're doing great things out there, we're going to find you and highlight you on the segment.
I hear it. Hey, we might have some guys that jump from list to list like we have already. A couple of these guys I've already scouted on the film. They look really good. We're going to start with Xavier Coulter up in Newton Conover High School. This young man, linebacker, had 13 tackles, a pick 6. He took it to the house against East Burke on Saturday. What do you see out of this guy?
I mean, he's one of those traditional physicals you see right there in the box backers. I mean, again, you're going to send your running back on a swing pass, or your quarterback trying to scramble. He's a guy that's going to find you and is going to make you pay. I mean, we see that right there, just a kid that's all over. He's actually been on the scene for a while and actually been doing great, playing great at that linebacker position. But we know he's a guy with that Newton Conover defense that they trust, and a guy, if you're scheming against him on Friday night, you have to highlight, star, and circle this kid on every single play.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, don't adjust your sets, guys. That's the North Carolina logo in NC State red, but that is a staple of Newton Conover, the Red Devils up there. Hey, this next guy is going up to the far northeastern corner of North Carolina. This might be the most talented team in North Carolina that nobody talks about, Northeastern High School in Elizabeth City. Kavion Freshwater leads the state in sacks. Last week he had a 71-yard fumble recovery. You can just see this guy here. He's all over the field. What's your take on him, Grice?
I mean, a freak of nature. I mean, Guru, that's one of the things I'm blessed about with our relationship. You've had me highlighted, looking at this guy for a while now. I'm glad we get to highlight him here as we've highlighted him off and on with our Mr. Football list. But just an athletic guy. I mean, when you look at teams from that side of that part of the state, they can play on both sides of the ball. You see that athleticism. Heck, he almost beat the running back to the fumble right there. But a kid like this, again, we talk about, guys playing at both sides, guys really having a great get off on the snap of the ball. He is that, and a guy that I'm sure that the coach over there at Northeastern is really happy to have.
Yeah, I think we may have to get Coach Antonio Moore on the show soon, because he's got about 4 what I think to be bona fide D1 guys, not just Freshwater. That might be a team we need to really showcase here in the future. But let's move on our list. We're going now from the far northeast corner to the far southwest corner to Transylvania County to Brevard. The Blue Devils, Gannon Hemphill, he's an H-back, an outside linebacker. He is in the top 20 in North Carolina in tackles. You need guys like that. Tell me about him, Grice.
Oh, you need it perfectly. And he talked about Transylvania County. He's getting pretty spooky as we get into the month of October here. As a guy getting 17 tackles a game. I mean, one thing we like highlighting these defensive guys that are just really active, really athletic, and getting there in there making plays. And that is the perfect fit. That H-back linebacker size, that type kid. I mean, you have a lot of those out there, but you see he's transcending a lot of these guys with his tackle numbers. I mean, 17 a game is insane. So good, we're highlighting the guys. Like we said, we're going from from there, getting near Cherokee and Transylvania County there with Gannon. So great job, and a guy that you really got to watch here.
Absolutely. Great looking turf field there at Smoky Mountain High School. Man, they've got turf fields everywhere in Western North Carolina. Really showcases the speed. But now let's take a trip all the way back down to the coast. To New Hanover County, Laney High School. Quarterback Ty Little, he has 1,205 yards passing, 17 touchdowns for a 4-1 team. Had an insane game this past Friday, passed for 340 yards and 5 touchdowns in defeat. By the way, he is the son of the head coach. What do you think about that?
I mean, some of the things he has highlighted here, I mean, looks athletic and can move. But again, if he needs to make that throw, he's going to be able to make that throw. We saw, some great off-platform throws at the beginning of the highlight. Now we're seeing his ability to use his legs to get some great yards as well. So, one of those quarterbacks that's always tough, similar to Griner's QB Mahatha, West Charlotte. One of those guys that's always a danger to run, but as long as he's behind that line of scrimmage, you've got to watch because he can deliver a bomb down the field to one of his great receivers there. But it's a great looking team. And again, we talk about those guys that are great quarterbacks that can do both. In high school, that's almost hard to stop.
Yeah, that apple didn't fall far from the tree, by the way. His father, Luke Little, played in my era. You didn't want to hang a curveball against him. I think he was second in the state in career home runs by the time he graduated high school. Phenomenal football player. I think Ty got the same genes. But anyway, guy, that's another crop of fresh faces. Hey, we did it again.
I mean, the miles we put on, Guru, I mean, we're driving back and forth across the state. I mean, no other show is giving you that. I mean, we are getting miles going from Northeastern to Brevard, back to Wilmington, to Newton Conover. I mean, we're covering everybody. So, again, if you are, somebody that you think should be highlighted, we don't care where you are in the state. As long as you are in this state, we've got you. So I'm excited to see next week's crop.
All right, let's do it.
Nice shirt, Grice.
Who was that big receiver he was throwing to?
That guy looks very fluid. I like to have that guy right there.
That receiver? Yeah, I got it.
He looked tall, too. He looked like he's 6'2" at least.
6'2", he looked like 6'8". He was tall.
6'8", but he was about 6'3", probably, maybe 6. Yeah.
All right. It's that time once again. We don't ever question what this gentleman says because we always know that on each and every night, the Grice is right.
All right.
Isn't it funny his hype music? It's like
I love it.
I'm watching Boogie Nights with Dirk something like that.
Hey, but let me get in here before we have some fun. I have to do the Guru's job, which we always know the amazing and fantastic job that he does. And I think whenever he steps out, I'm always more appreciative week by week because this is a monumental task that he makes look easy. Let's start here with the 1A state rankings for this week. As we can see, the top four are unchanged. You have Eastern Randolph there at 5-0, Tarboro, as we know about, Mount Airy, and Thomasville here. Andrews there with the step up. Mitchell and Mountain Heritage also at 6 and 7, with Northside there at 8. Robbinsville stepping down a bit after the 46-43 loss to Broome High School. Broome High School is a 3A school out of Spartanburg, South Carolina. So this Robbinsville team is 2-2. They missed a couple games, of course, because of COVID, but their tough non-conference schedule has them a little lower than probably they really are. But of course, with 2 losses, they're a little bit down on the 1A rankings. And then number 10 there, Murphy, rounding out the top 10 with a narrow win over Cherokee. Murphy actually has got a pretty tough schedule coming up. They've got Robbinsville. They'll get a little bit of a break with Swain County, but then have the Andrews coming to finish up. Guys, any comments about the 1A rankings?
Tarboro.
It's some tough teams. The 1A rankings are very competitive, and I think in the playoffs, like I always tell Guru, those teams play each other, and it's hard to beat that team a second time. All right, but let's move forward to the 2A state rankings here. The top 6 here are unchanged. Of course, Reedsville won at 5-0. Salisbury, of course, led by linebacker Jalen Walker there at number 2. We saw Freshwater on Fresh Faces with Northeastern there, number 3. Maiden rounds out 4. Shelby with a dominant win over Highland Tech this weekend maintains 5. And then Whiteville there still at 6. Hendersonville moves up with that big 42-9 win over Chase. We highlighted Marquise McCombs, and I felt like we had the Langston Wirtz curse on them as Chase and lost the next game to Hendersonville there. Wallace Rose Hill, of course, took a step back there with Hendersonville moving up. Burns is still there at 9. I mean, that's my sleeper. I mean, they lost by 5. Kings Mountain and 8 to Watauga. I mean, that's a tough team right there. And Princeton stepping into the top 10 with a 28-6 win over Eastern Wayne. You were saying, Griner, you think they're your sleeper as well?
Yeah, that head coach that they have is amazing. What they do translates to the winter, kind of like Catholic does.
Yep.
They're a tough out when it starts getting colder. I wouldn't want to get a hard nose. They're tough. They know how to run the football. They're really good.
Definitely. That QC Bowl, it was great to meet him, and I can see why they're successful year after year.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get this 3A bracket going. We'll get down to you, Griner, here in a second. Scotland County still, of course, there at number 1. 71st is a big mover. So, you guys may not have been paying attention. 71st, while their schedule isn't crazy tough, they've only allowed 15 points all season. So, they're doing something right on the defensive end. They're playing whoever they're playing, and they're being darn near perfect in doing so. You have Lee County there at 3, Dudley at 4. Kings Mountain dropped a little bit there at 5. Jacksonville at 6. Of course, as we know, Crest with the big win, Grice's right game of the week last week over South Point, and those two are now 7 and 8. The West Charlotte Lions, after a big win over my former school, Hopewell, are at 9, and JB Hunt there rounds out the top 10 at number 10. Griner, now at number 9, got a big one coming up. How you feeling right now?
I feel good. We're playing the best team in the state. You'll see them on the 4A rankings right here, and watching film on them, they're a good football team. They're really good.
No, I agree. But good to see you on there.
I'm excited about the opportunity to find out where we're at. You see what I'm saying? And people are like, man, how do you feel about going? I was like, we're in 3A. I get to compete against the best teams in 4A football, and we play in 3A. I was like, I love it. I was like, it lets me know where I'm at, and it helps us get better. I don't want to be surprised when we get to the playoffs. I want to be surprised now and fix some things, so I'm excited.
That's great. That's great. All right, let's bring up the Fight Club rankings, as I call them. The tough 2 have been the tough 2 and are the top 2 for a while here with Huff and Julius Chambers High School. Cleveland County, of course, led by Marion Hampton, holding the spot at 3. Alonzo Barnett and the Grimsley Whirlies, again, continue to be dominant and win there at 4. Northern Guilford still 6-0. They're a tough team. I think that it's kind of flying under the radar a little bit, but they are still undefeated. Myers Park there at number 6, of course, after the big win they had over Gibbons at 7, which is a tough team, but of course they have a big game this weekend as well. New Bern with a 75-0 win over South Central, not that one on the West Coast, South Central here in North Carolina, but that was a big 75-0 win. Of course, East Forsyth didn't play this week. Their game against Mount Tabor was canceled. And then, of course, rounding out this top 10 is a familiar face that we all know, the Richmond Senior Raiders there. But again, 4A Fight Club, a lot of tough teams in that 4A division. Griner, what are your thoughts? I mean, you have to play a lot of them. So, I mean, what do you think of that?
I mean, Butler's not even in the top 10.
I mean, that's one of those things. Again, it's a Fight Club. I mean, I think there's
Hickory
Butler to
Hickory Ridge not even in the top 10.
There.
Charlotte Catholic.
I mean, that's
South Bend. I think a lot of
whoever wins a 4A, I'll take their daggone hand. I ain't tell you that. Whoever wins.
That's what I'm saying. It's the Fight Club for real. The number 1 rule. We can't talk about that, but let's move right into the games to watch here. Again, Crest at Shelby. I mean, I don't think we have to say much about that Cleveland County clash there. Using some alliteration there. Weddington at Porter Ridge, I think, is a sneaky good game there. Coach Capone, I think, has got it going. Broster House, the QB, has been doing pretty well. But Porter Ridge, I mean, you got to watch out for them.
They're a tough out. Porter Ridge is a tough out. I'll tell you what, that was a big win that
they can score a lot of points.
They can. Yeah. Who beat them last week? It was
trying to think. I forgot.
They played Independence like the second game of the season. They're in Union County too.
Oh, Marvin Ridge.
That was a big win there. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. We go down here, of course, Griner. You guys are, what is it? Were you 4-1?
Well, I would say we're 5-1, but yeah, 4-1's fine. Whatever we do, like
4-1.
It wasn't our decision.
Griner saying they would have won the game if they'd played.
Of course, facing the undefeated Huff Huskies is a big game. Down east, Jacksonville at Havelock there is going to be a big one. Kings Mountain, again, South Point with that narrow loss to Crest. I mean, no rest for the weary as the Mountaineers coming into town. We're trying to knock them off as well. Hickory Ridge at Lake Norman is one of my sneaky good games, I think. I talked to Coach Wilson this week. He, feels confident, but, of course, Coach Oliphant is no secret to knocking off top teams. Northside, Pinetown, of course, at Southside. Roseville at Millbrook, it would be a good one. We talked about Grimes, talked about Fortune, Byron Brown, and them coming into town. I think he's really rounding it out at the right time. You see here, Davie County at Mount Tabor. Hopefully, Mount Tabor's time off won't hurt them. The South Meck at RG Kell, I think, is another one we got to watch for.
Pause on that right there. The South Meck RG Kell. I want to know everybody's pick for that game, starting top to bottom. Go ahead, Dale. South Meck at RG Kell.
South Meck.
Yeah. Right.
I'll take South Meck there.
Alex.
South Meck.
I'm going to go South Meck too. Go, Gary. Which do you want?
South Meck.
I'm just saying, man. Hey, man. Grind, you can say what you want, but hey, I'm not going to be the best team in that conference. We already have. But let's keep going. Of course, we got Panther Creek here at Middle Creek, Roanoke Rapids at Rocky Mount, Lee County here at Pinecrest, Heritage at Knightdale. Wallace Rose Hill at Rosewood will be a good one. And I think Reagan at West Forsyth, that Baby IMEX got some really good matchups there. Alex, are you going to be at that Roseville Millbrook game? I think that one's going to be probably one of the better ones in your area. Hey, if you had a choice and had nothing else to do, I think you might be going to that game. But I think that's going to be a good one.
Was that a setup because you know where I'll be on Friday?
Hey, we can get right into the game of the week. Alex.
Game of the week.
I think that graphic was a little off there. But Alex, where are you going to be this Friday?
1401 Edwards Mill Road, Raleigh, North Carolina, 27607.
For those that do not know, that is the home of Cardinal Gibbons as they face Leesville Road in the game of the week. Again, I think that Roseville Millbrook game will be a good one.
It will.
This one, I think, I'm really excited. So let's talk about some of the keys here. We can bring that back up. The first thing for me, defense, as we always say, and Alex always says, get on D. Hey, defense wins championships, and the best defense is going to win this game. We look at Leesville Road. Their schedule, of course, hasn't been as tough as Cardinal Gibbons. But Leesville Road's only allowed 31 points so far this year. Cardinal Gibbons, even with their tough schedule, I mean, we talk about Myers Park, we talk about Julius Chambers, they've still only given up 82 points so far this year. So you've got two tough defenses in a game like this. I think the best defense and the one that can provide their offense with the most chances to score is going to be the one that's going to be successful. The second one is going to be the battle of the playmakers. With Gibbons, you have Donovan Shepard and Ian Evans. That's the running back receiver combo. Shepard's averaging 5 yards a carry. Ian Evans is your big play guy for Gibbons, averaging 23.3 yards per catch. I mean, anytime you have guys that are that explosive on the ground and in the air, it's going to be a battle with Leesville Road's guys. And again, their running back receiver combo, DJ Scott is averaging an amazing 6.3 yards per carry, and Nasir Winston is the big play receiver on their side. 20 yards per catch he's getting there as well. So, both of these teams seem to be very similar matched up. They're going to be, more run focused, but those receivers, when they get their opportunities, they're going to be big plays. So to me, like last week we talked about with Crest versus South Point, it was going to be a battle of the running backs. I think in this situation, it's going to be a battle of the playmakers. Who can establish themselves first on the ground, but then as far as from a receiver standpoint, who's going to be the guy to make that big play to help their team be successful? And as for the last key for me, again, I like to look at matchups. We talk about this a lot. Even I think my first one I looked at with, Butler and Richmond County, I thought that was interesting and played into it. But the last point is, can the Pride turn the tide? You look, they've lost 3 of the last 4 meetings, and a big thing really for them is just seeing if they can actually take advantage. I mean, they've lost, I think the total in the last 4 meetings has been 125-63 for Cardinal Gibbons. So, Leesville's had some good teams. And again, the best team that they had was the 2019 fall season in which they went to the state championship game, losing to then Zebulon B. Vance High School. But they've got to come out of this game and be successful. And again, for me, it's a barometer. If they can be successful in this game, they're the ones you got to look at, the ones that I think that you got to beat in this 4A Fight Club division. Guys, any comments there on this game?
Yeah, it's just defense wins championships. And when it comes to defenses, it's very hard, if not impossible, to have a conversation about defense in this part of the state without talking about Cardinal Gibbons' defensive coordinator, Nick Drew. Very well among the elite defensive coordinators in North Carolina high school football. If you look at his continuously growing resume, obviously the 2 wins over Richmond, the win over Scotland, the 2 wins over Newbern, all over in the last 2-3 seasons, and what he continues to do this year as that defense puts the Crusaders in a position to be competitive. So I'm not a betting man at all, but were I a betting man, I would not bet against Nick Drew's defense. That just absolutely doesn't happen. But then again, at the same time, this is for the 3rd consecutive season the barometer by which the league is measured. You go back 2 years ago, as Grice pointed out, both of these teams, a great game that came down to a missed field goal, and both of them go on and play in 4AA and 4A state finals. Have another great game last spring. This is the deal right here in this area, and there's just nothing else to be said about it. You've got playmakers, you've got great coaches going at it, you have elite defenses who can showcase. This is the place to be this week. There's a reason this is the biggest game in the state.
I agree 100%. Again, I'm excited. I know you're going to be there, even though there are some other good games around the area. But I'm excited again to see how these games shake out. But hey, let's turn to Grice's gym. Some people balled and they got the call. Let's see who are this week's nominees.
All right, my man, we're back. Hey, you hear that?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, phone's ringing. Either you call, we'll get them in the show. You heard about that? You call, we'll get you in the show.
Man,
here of Grice's Gyms, my man. This just seems to be taking on. We have spotlighted a lot of big time players here in the past few weeks.
Oh, we have. And Guru, you always come out with the great ad libs there, the great little additions to the show. But I love how it's catching on. I mean, guys, this is purely about you. When you ball, when you do a great job and help your team to victory, or even in a loss, when you just put up an amazing performance, let us know, man. We want to highlight you guys. I think this is great. And again, I love that other Twitter pages for schools are catching on and really highlighting this. So let's get into it, Guru.
All right, man, let's do it. And I like the fact that last week you specifically focused on this young man here, saying that he was part of your keys to the game whenever South Point and Crest went at it. And by the way, he performed, and look at it right there. Crest High School's Maury Adams had 188 yards and a come behind. I think come from behind is an understatement in this one here. The come from behind win against South Point.
Definitely. I mean, again, I know we're crossing segments here, but we just like you, Guru, we put a lot of time and work into this, and understanding the keys and choosing great games, as I'm glad we did here. This kid was going to be the key there, and I mean, we knew, and again, for them to come back and win in the way that they did, it was going to be on the back of Maury Adams. I mean, you saw 22 carries, 188 yards, and a score. I mean, even an additional reception for 32 yards. I think this is now 4 games in a row he's had over 170 yards rushing. Didn't get the multiple touchdowns, but again, a guy that they're saying basically, hey, you got to help us win this game. And if we don't do it, if you're not successful, he did it. He balled. We had to give him the call, from the game of the week.
Yeah, to do it against such a big team, a big stage, a good defense, man, he had to get that call. Great job to Maury. We're going to move up to the triad now for this next guy, to those Page Pirates. Man, you got to talk about one of the premier programs in the state. Well, they've won 3 in a row. They had a rough stretch. I think Doug Robertson's finally got them on the right path. Trayvon Hester, 34-13 victory Friday night against Northwest Guilford. He ran 28 times for 240 yards and 3 touchdowns. What do you see from this man?
I mean, being a Northeast Guilford grad, I mean, the highlighted page Pirate's a little tough for me. But again, if I'm going to highlight a Pirate, he better do what this guy did. And, we talked about that, he's a senior that missed the spring season with a knee injury. And, we're glad to see that he's able to come back. And he's coming back in a big way here. He's playing like a man who missed some time and is trying to reclaim that and get everything back. So big game here, 28 rushes for 240. It's safe to say he's pretty healthy and doing this in a big way over Northwest Guilford. So, salute to him. He got the call, even though he goes to a terrible school. But I'm joking.
Man, Page ain't a terrible school. They're a great school. It's got great kids. They just happen to be on the other side of your team. But it's okay. I get it. I played for a school. I feel the same way. Hey, let's go back down here to the Charlotte area now, to Gaston County. And talk about a team that I think has truly turned the corner. Coach J.T. Postel has really got this team on the right path, and they've just endured a lot of down seasons. But East Gaston's Justin Hill ran for 266 yards, 2 touchdowns against 1A perennial power Thomas Jefferson. That is a conference game, by the way. But, man, anytime you can spotlight East Gaston and showcase the fact that they've returned back to their winning ways, I love doing it.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, that goes to show you that no matter what school you're at, kids, if you are balling, you're doing great things, you're getting a call. East Gaston's on the way up, and we wanted to highlight some of the reasons why. Justin Hill's a big reason why. Thomas Jefferson, as we know, is no slouch. I mean, they're perennial power, as you said, Guru, D1 athletes in that program, so that he's doing this against a team that can really make some waves. And I'm excited to see what they're doing. We talk about this time of year, Guru. I mean, I love throwing the ball as much as anybody, but those running backs are having big days in these big conference type games. So, highlighting a guy like Justin Hill, you run that much and have that high volume, you're going to get the call.
Yes, no kidding. Hey, this next guy, I had to not do a double tape or a triple tape. I had to do a quadruple take when I saw his stats come at me. Smoky Mountain High School's Isaiah McNeely had 397 yards and 4 touchdowns against West Henderson. Man, if I would have been Isaiah, I would have been just begging for 3 more yards, Coach. Let's make it 400. But, wow, what an impressive performance.
I mean, that's incredible. I think that, averaging 12 yards per carry, first off. I mean, that guy was a walking first down in the game Friday night. And I think this got him on the 41st on the single game rushing performance by North Carolina public school player in history. And this guy's only a sophomore. Guru, he's only a sophomore. I mean, a guy we've got to pay attention to going forward. That is a monster performance in a big game that they had to have. And again, the scoreline wasn't a blowout. They needed every single one of those yards and every one of those touchdowns in order for them to get the win. So got to highlight that. Salute to you, Isaiah. I don't think this is the last time we're going to be talking about you. I'm just going to say that very clearly. But what a performance. What a night.
I agree. And just to see those mountain teams, you start to see them spread the field out more. They're not in that box like they used to be running power football, and you're starting to get a lot of their athletes in space. So I really like that. Hey, we got one more to showcase. We're going back down to Gaston County. I'm going to tell you, Gaston County has really been on the upswing in terms of football this year. Every team down there just about seems to be really good. Now over to Ashbrook High School. And look at Anthony Tice. We're going to talk about another defensive guy just for those who think that we only – focus on the offensive guys, but tell us about Anthony, Coach.
I mean, just a guy getting 2 pick sixes, in a big win over North Gaston. I mean, I think, we talk about, programs in Gaston County on the way up. I mean, Ashbrook's kind of been, up and down. Definitely looks like they're trending in that right direction, and Anthony's a big reason why. So, we got to highlight those guys that have those big plays. Again, Griner, we look at defensive guys. We want to make sure, again, if you ball on that defensive side, you're putting up points to help your offense in big wins. Heck, he scored almost as many points as North Gaston by himself. Anytime you do something like that, you've got to get the call.
Absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned North Gaston, too. Even though the record hadn't shown it yet, I've seen a lot of improvement out of that team as well. Gaston County football in my book has gone way up this year. Anyway, guys, you put the performances on Friday night. Give us a call. Remember to hit us up at #Grice's Gyms, and we'll focus on you again next week. That's it, Grice. Another week in the books.
Oh, I'm glad to have it again. These guys balled. We gave them a call. Again, if you on Friday night, you're a parent, you are the kid who you felt your performance was one of the best, DM me at Coach J. Grice on Twitter, at Guru Chris Hughes, at Langston Works Jr., at Observer Preps. Let whoever know, let all of us know. If you really had a great performance, we want to know and we want to highlight you. Additionally, provide us with your highlights. That's another key. We want to highlight your game that you had. sometimes we'll have to pull other highlights, but I think that's key. We want to see the plays you made that made you successful. So salute to everybody that made it this week. I love, salute the alumni. I'm always watching you guys. Let's continue to ball as we get ready for playoffs, and I hope to have another crop next week that's just as good.
All right, it's time for the rundown. We swapped it a little bit early on, but we're going to get right to it. Gary, should Urban Meyer be fired for Restaurant-gate?
Oh, I like that name you gave.
I like that name.
Yeah, I like that name. When I first heard about the story, my thought was no. And then as I researched it, and I've had the privilege of going to 2 coaches' clinics where Urban Meyer was a speaker, got to meet him. And let me tell you, he's arrogant as I don't know what. I wasn't impressed with him. I don't like the fact that Carolina uses the slogan, be the one, because Urban Meyer is the one that gave it to him.
Uh-huh.
He should be fired, but the owner doesn't want to pay. And he's not going to resign because if he does, he won't get paid. But he's a hypocrite. All coaches preach about don't be a distraction. Don't be a distraction. And the very thing he is a distraction. The video shows him in his own restaurant. Columbus has a mask mandate. First of all, he doesn't have a mask. And he's messing around with a few young girls that he shouldn't be doing in public.
Yeah, the video is pretty bad.
The video is bad. And he's been a distraction ever since he got to Jacksonville. He hired a racist strength coach, which he had to turn around and go back and fire. He brought in Tim Tebow, Sam, who had no business getting a tryout. So it's time for Urban to go.'s a huge distraction. He's not ready for the pro game, and he's probably unfit for the college game right now.
All right. That was so thorough, we're not even going to go for a follow. Grice, what area do the Panthers need to address before they play Philadelphia this week?
I think you got to, make sure everything's solid defensively. I think Dallas can score, and, we've seen in the situation with the Panthers, didn't face any high-octane offenses before. So, in a situation like this where they really just let the game get away from them, I just think defensively they just need to tighten up, all around.
Man, I'm froze again. Look at that.
That was Langston's face as he was watching the game.
With my eyes closed, I'm frozen.
I tried to tell y'all last week.
Tell us, Gary. What you trying to tell us?
That they were going to get blown out.
It was a blowout?
Yeah, it wasn't.
It wasn't a blowout.
It was a blowout until the end. We pulled our starters last quarter.
You guys need to make a first down at the end of the game. It wasn't a blowout. I know you're a Cowboy Joe to your heart, but it wasn't quite like that. Dale, what is the most unpredictable football team in college football? Clemson.
I'll answer that.
NC State, or ECU?
Yeah, I'm gonna throw a quick answer on that previous one.
Okay.
Panthers need to learn how to work refs. Officials.
Well, they did get some calls that Jerry paid for, or did not get some calls Jerry paid for. But
so, in all honesty, out of that group, the team that probably has the opportunity to make the most change again would be a Clemson, and I would say unpredictable in that manner. I would almost call my NC State guys that unpredictable after this past weekend, but really I think Clemson still has tools there that when they find the right thing, they may turn something on. I think the others they are what they are. They are who they are.
Okay. Alex, the Baltimore Ravens ran Lamar Jackson on the last play of a game with a 16-point lead in order to tie an NFL record of teams rushing for consecutive games of teams rushing for at least 100 yards. The Denver Broncos thought it was unsportsmanlike. They thought the Ravens should take a knee. Do you think teams should or should not do this type of thing, leave stars in late to set records? Is it unsportsmanlike?
That is unsportsmanlike, and I'll differentiate as to why. It is no one's job to stop a team from scoring. It is your job as a winning coach to manage the scoring effort by managing your player personnel and making sure everyone gets into the game. If your third string scores, that's that. I'm looking at Gary right here, and I'll just use an analogy. Gary's best teams. Now, I couldn't hold a candle to any of the teams that Gary had, but I would have been pretty ticked if I was down by 60 points to his team. I was probably down 70 anyway, but I would have been ticked if I was down 60 points and he was still running Kerry Metzger at me. Now, if Gary had his last 5 on the bench in, then that's my problem. I'm sorry that I'm sorry his team was that good and mine wasn't. But if his last 5 were on the bench, that's my problem. If he's running Kerry Metzger and Kendria Holmes, and I could go on and on. If he's running them at me with a 60-point lead, I got a problem with that. So that's the issue right there. It's not that they were looking to score. You still got your stars in the game at that point. That is unsportsmanlike.
Okay. Grice, in mid-season, which high school teams are the most surprising and most disappointing?
That's a tough one. I mean, even when I was, looking at this and just trying to think, I mean, I really don't think there are many surprising teams, I guess, around here. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think that what South Point's doing is pretty good. I mean, I don't necessarily feel like that was surprising. I think, you got a lot of good teams that are doing it. I think what we think. Go ahead, Gary.
Since you're both here, I can tell you the most surprising is West Charlotte. I think Sam is having a great season.
You didn't think they would beat?
I think Sam is having a great season.
But surprising is disrespectful to him because I thought he had a great team. When I saw him in the preseason versus Burns,
well,
I
think hold on, let me finish, Grice. I think there's some I won't call them handicaps, but I would say there's some disadvantages that Sam has to work with. 1, he doesn't have a full coaching staff. 2, he doesn't have an experienced coaching staff. He's got to have some guys that goes both ways. And I hate to tell this to Sam, but he knows it's true. He don't know what he's going to get out of his quarterback from play to play. It might be a great play. It might be an awful play. It's never even keeled. It's great or it's bad. And when you're working under them circumstances, that's tough. So I think West Charlotte is the most surprising. Now, since you're on here, Grice, I hate to tell you, but y'all the most disappointing team.
I don't think
you got 190 kids on the roster.
You didn't have to tell me that.
Y'all not winning enough games.
I'm aware.
With that many kids, you should be dominating other teams.
Well, they didn't have.
I know you're trying to build a culture, and sometimes when you're trying to build a culture, you have to take a step back to teach what you want done to get 2 steps ahead in the future. But in the present, I'm disappointed in Mallard Creek.
I'll tell you one thing. If they had number 3 playing, I like their chances in the last game. Number 3 is a special talent. It's up to number 3 to do the right thing he's supposed to, because I love their head coach in Mallard Creek. He does things the right way. Even if it hurts the team, he's not quite the Bobby Bowden type where I'm going to hurt the player, not the team. He's going to make sure that it hurts the player and the team if it comes down to it, if they're not disciplined, if they do something that's catastrophic for their team.
And I don't question his coaching ability. I really don't, because when you're building a program, especially when you're taking over one that's had a lot of success, the high expectations are there automatically. But just looking at some of the kids that they have on their roster, their size, their athleticism, their speed, I would think they would be a little bit better. But Grice knows this as well as anyone. It always starts with the quarterback. And if your quarterback is holding you back, it affects the rest.
Wait, hold on. Hey, 70% passing, freaking, 9 touchdowns, 2 picks, both of them in the end zone. He's fine. So leave that out there, quarterback coach speaking. Hey, let's go to the Thunderdome. We got a substitute teacher. We got Griner. Let's go.
Substitute.
Welcome to another edition of Thunderdome.
You know I call him a substitute. He's always ready to go, man. You know what? Lesson plan, he's ready to go. Lesson plan 1.
Hey, I have the principals are blowing up my phone. We need you, Mr. Substitute. We need you. I just got my booster, so I'm getting ready to get back in business. All right, guys, here we go. What recruiting rule would you like to see the NCAA implement? Something that they don't allow now that you think would help the kids as well as high school coaches. Grice, you go first.
I see Griner's thinking. I won the toss, so I'm elected to receive. The recruiting rule I think they need to implement right now is limiting the number of players schools can get in the transfer portal. I think as we're starting to see the transfer portal explode and become bigger, we need to start having limitations so this literally doesn't become another have and have-nots. As it relates to the transfer portal for the guys that maybe didn't get into Alabama or didn't get in somewhere else, and they're able to use that transfer portal as a second means of being dominant in recruiting. So, as that's becoming bigger, those limitations I think are important so you don't see any kind of nefarious activity coming where, they're just funneling kids into a certain place. Because even seeing that now, you're starting to see some kind of underhanded, like, hey, let me talk to this guy to make sure we all go over here to transfer to the school. So that one I think needs to happen right now.
Sam?
Yeah, this is pretty easy for me on this one. They have the dumbest rule you can possibly have. They will not hire high school coaches behind the scene jobs like, player development, whatever the case may be. If you're recruited, like say I have a player like Kavaris Krauts or whatnot, they can't hire me for 3 years unless I'm a position coach. They only allow 10 position coaches. It's very hard to go to Georgia, Tennessee, Clemson, and be, a position coach. You got to earn your way because it's a different platform, high school, college. There's a lot of great high school football coaches that never get the opportunity to progress in their career because of a dumb rule that was done because of basketball rules, because they were getting those one and done kids. A guy would get hired for $100,000 behind the scenes, and then they would fire him. Whatnot. But if you're a good coach, high school coach, football wise, those guys don't get fired. Let's think about Chris Partridge, the guy that went to Michigan. He was a high school guy, went to Michigan. Now he's at Ole Miss. He's about to be a defense coordinator. He's one of the best coaches out there. But guess what? He didn't start as a position coach. He got player development, and he got asked to be into a position coach, and it progressed him and his family. I just think that's the dumbest rule that we have right there. The NCAA needs to fix that.
And Sam, I think if I'm right, you know where that rule came from? And Grice, you may have heard of this too. It's Danny Manning. He was from Greensboro. Yeah. Everybody automatically assumed he was going to Carolina in the 80s. And then Larry Brown got hired at Kansas, and he hired Danny Manning's dad. And Danny Manning flipped from probably going to Carolina to going to Kansas. And I think that's when
that's the thing, though. You can still do that. You can hire someone's dad. You can't hire a high school football coach if he coaches a player behind the scene jobs. It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, staying along the same lines, what rule would you like to see eliminated, Grice?
It's actually Griner first, since I went there.
Griner. He just told us which one he wanted eliminated. So which one do you want?
Yeah,
you got to come up with another one now.
That's true. I go on the playing field. I think the targeting rule, they need to do something totally different with that. They need to make it a 15-yard penalty, or maybe even make it a longer penalty. I don't care if you make it 30-yard penalty or whatever, but you shouldn't remove a guy from targeting, because all of a sudden now, if he's gone from the game in the second half, he has to miss the whole next game or the next first half or something.
First half or the next game.
Yeah, that's so stupid. You're talking about, is there ever been a time where an offensive player can get targeting and miss a game? No, it's only defensive players. You're going to lose guys that have opportunities to go play in the NFL. They lose film. They hurt their teams. And it could be, there's really freaky situations. We need to really watch that a lot better, because they can be targeting, and then you're out. And then it wasn't really a bad targeting call. So that's what needs to be gone.
Grice?
I mean, so very quick aside on that. Yeah, I hated that that's permeated into like other levels of football. Like that's a college thing. Like we were playing Hopewell, coming back home, and like we got a personal foul penalty for a hit, guy helmet to helmet hit. Freaking announcer's like, oh, he was ejected from the game. I was like, hey, put him back in next play so you can show these dummies that he's not ejected. Like it's permeated into other levels of the school.
I know, it's crazy.
Back to the question, my favorite Grinerism. See, you didn't look at the question. You didn't answer the question, Griner. So let me actually tell you, the question is recruiting rule you'd like to see eliminated right now. That one for me is a great shirt. Like I absolutely hate that. I think it can be used and has been used to jerk kids around and even take kids who are fully committed, scholarship commitments to schools, and take that and lessen them down for a gray shirt. For those that don't know, being gray shirted means you are not able to enroll or are not on scholarship at that school for the fall, and you would have, I think it's the spring semester. That next spring semester would be when you could be able to be enrolled and be on scholarship, thus actively losing that first year. So I think that's something that's done. It's dirty. It's something they need to get away with right now. That'll get kids to go places that actually want them and actually want to put invest money in them.
Mm. And the last question, guys, if you could give parents of athletes being recruited, what is the one piece of advice that you would give to a parent whose son or daughter is being recruited to go to college?
Let me go first on this one, Grice.
I got you.
I don't know if I should say this out in public, but like, all right, I'm giving too much away right here. This is clutch stuff right now. Okay, parents, I want you to know something about colleges. There's 3 things to be a Division I athlete. You got to look the part, you got to have the grades to get in, and you got to have the film to back it up. You know what's the number one thing out of those 3? It's not grades. I hate to say it. And it's not the film. It's actually what you look like. Like, do you pass the eye test? I know that sounds crazy, but I've seen it so many times. So what you do, if they're going to be that petty about it, you need to like invest into some type of things you put in your socks, give you an extra inch.
I knew you were going to say that.
You're going to go in there. They tell you to take your shoes off, pull your toes up. You're still 6 foot, baby. You know what I'm saying? So there you go.
How he got his wife. That's what Griner tell you.
Paying attention. If they want to be that petty, they want to be petty about an inch, give them an inch.
Shoe lifts. Okay.
So my a little more integrity having advice, I guess, potentially. Biggest thing is love who love you. To me, it's like dating. I mean, go and invest your time in someone that invests that time in you. Too many people have these champagne dreams and are, living on, steel reserve prices and stuff like that. They're not, these high-rise, dreams in these schools that really don't care about you. You're really ignoring those that are investing that time and gonna ensure that your child has a great collegiate experience. You want your child to be at a place where 20 years from now that they're going to look and be proud of where they were and, what was provided to them. So that's my simple advice. Love who love you.
I love it. Gary did a good job as a substitute teacher. I enjoyed that.
Hey, that's what I do.
Everybody need to be this.
I'm still frozen. I'm like Mr. Freeze. Alex, at the beginning of the show, I got a call from a guy a prominent football player who wanted to come on the show and make his college announcement. I know you disagree with that, making the college announcement on Talking Preps, because you're on both News Observer and Charlotte Observer websites and all their social accounts at the same time. That's a bigger platform that you can have in North Carolina anywhere. And the new boss agrees with me. See that? That's the new boss. Raina Cash is the new editor of the Charlotte Observer. She says, of course, so high school kids, if you want to make your announcement on the Charlotte Observer, News Observer, Talking Prep show, come on down.
Oh, snap. Yeah, that's
oh, snap. We got the big boss who said it's cool. All right. Gary, I know I told you you're going to get to have your final thoughts, and then the man came on. I got to let the star have his final thoughts. But I'm going to let you have your final thoughts, and I got a special message for you at the bottom of the screen while you do it.
Gary.
Okay.
Wait a minute. I got a special message for you, Gary, while you make your final thoughts on the screen.
Okay. My final thoughts, I'm not going to pontificate or get on a soapbox. However, what I wanted to do is recognize the other sports that are playing in the fall. Some coaches have reached out to me and said, what about us? What about the non-revenue sports? So Volleyball, number 1 in the East, North Raleigh Christian. Number 1 in the West, TC Robeson. Boys soccer, number 1 in the East, New Hanover. Number 1 in the West, Southwest Guilford. Girls tennis, number 1 in the East, East Chapel Hill High. In the West, Marvin Ridge. And I want to give a special shout out to David Smith, whose Huskies upset the state champion Cardinal Gibbons. So that's mine for the non-revenue sports.
You didn't even see what I put down at the bottom of the screen.
Hey, the Cowboys did what I said they were going to do. I wasn't surprised.
Gary was in Dallas and sent a trolling video to everybody.
Everybody.
Just troll everybody in the group chat. And then he bought some Dallas Cowboy tennis shoes.
How amazing is that building?
It's unreal.
93,000 people.
The big star, the big show with all his ink and his guns out. What's on you, man?
Well, I'm just so excited. I left practice today, and I talked to one of the head guys that were just over the construction, and I was like, I heard you guys are putting up lights next week. I just got one question. I said, we're not going to put hubcaps on this Bentley, right? We're going to do LED lights. He was like, yeah, I think they're LED lights. So I am hyped about the LED lights. We about to be Richmond County up in here, man.
Well, I know you like that Richmond County thing. And Sam was trying to make up to you Richmond County people because I know he gave y'all a hard time a couple years ago.
Sam loved it when those lights went off. He's like, wow.
Two people I disrespected. Will Shipley and supposedly Richmond County. And boy, they came at me hardcore, but I like that. I like people to stand their ground. A lot of people out there don't like me. I understand that. But if you get to know me like Grice, me and Grice didn't know each other like I really care about Grice. We talk.
I didn't hate you. I don't make you feel like I hated you. Hold on.
Like,
Sam has a way with words, doesn't he?
Yeah, my bad.
Yeah.
My bad.
Now, Sam is misunderstood. I give him that. I'm not defending him a lot. He's misunderstood. But it was cool, though, because Sam did a live shot on the show from Richmond County. You turned the phone around, and those fans went crazy. I mean, you could.
Yeah, they went crazy.
It was insane. So that was a good time. So
that's when I was out of work. That was out of work.
Yeah, that was when you were out. That's when we were trying to figure out this show. We were horrible at it.
Yeah, we were.
Anyway, Chris, come back, man. I hope everything's good with you. We miss you, Guru. The number one voice of high school football. I say it every week. There's nobody anywhere in North Carolina who knows high school football or cares about it the way that man does. We miss him. The sun dropped for Chris. Got to get you back next week. That's my man, Jonathan Grice, Malley Creek, the quarterback coach, Sam Grind, the head football coach at West Charlotte. Sam, we pray for you this week going against that big powerhouse at Huff High School. Hope you guys come out healthy out of that game. Gary Richmond, Mr. Cowboy down there. I still hate the Cowboys. I can't do it. I can't do it. Alex Bass, the Contrarian, and Dale Ross, Mr. Olympic High School. We are Talking Preps. We'll see you next week.
See you.